You, it's the Turks.
Back at it with another banger, man. We got Who Video again. Why DeAndre Hunter is a perfect fit for the Cavs? W trade, man. Let us know what y'all think about this trade in the comments, and let's get straight into it.
Let's see.
One of the most underrated moves of this year's trade deadline was the
God.
Cavs getting
Oh my-
DeAndre Hunter. Hunter's been
him.
having a breakout season on a middling team with the exact type of game you'd expect to translate to higher level basketball. So for a 42-10
Damn, he got
team,
bounced.
you could very easily make the argument that he
Nah, he's
moves
perfect for
the
this team.
needle. My main takeaway from the trade was that the Cavs simply got bigger and more athletic. Hunter's taller, lengthier, and more physically capable than both LeVert and Yang, which gives him more utility in certain spots on offense.
aggro, bruh.
The most obvious one being in transition, where he's a really good scorer. And for a team in Cleveland that loves to get out and run, that's a perfect match. Even in the half court, though, there are certain things you can do with Hunter as an off-ball player that you couldn't do with the other two. For example, he can play out of the dunker spot where rim protectors are forced to treat him as a legitimate interior threat, and he's a really smart mover without the ball, so even when he's playing from the perimeter, the defense has to constantly be aware of where he's at, or he'll sneak into the paint on timely cuts. On the perimeter is where he spends most of his time on offense, and that's because he's developed into a really good spot-up shooter. Over the last 2 seasons, he's attempted over 400 catch-and-shoot threes, and he's made a pretty impressive 39.4% of them. He might not have the sheer accuracy of a dead-eye shooter, but he gets these shots off at great volume, and that's not only because he knows how to position himself and is confident shooting in tight windows, it's also thanks to his height. At 6'8" with a high release point, he's able to shoot over a lot of closeouts, especially from smaller defenders. And if a defender tries to close that space with a more aggressive closeout, he's comfortable faking, taking a dribble, and reloading for a higher quality look. Or he'll use the threat of the three to create a driving lane, as he's just dangerous in general against closeouts. He doesn't have a very explosive first step, so when he drives off the catch, he's not too difficult to cut off. But he actually thrives in those situations. One thing he really likes to do when a driving lane gets taken away is drop the shoulder and create contact with the strength to get some separation. And after creating that contact, he can get up into a shot in a variety of ways with the size to score over the top of most defenders. The way he's embraced contact and been a lot more aggressive with shoulder bumps has been a big development for him in this season specifically. And as a result, his free throw rates have taken a pretty big jump, now landing in the 89th percentile at almost 6 free throw attempts every 75 possessions. With that said, though, when he's looking to attack on a drive and gets cut off, his go-to counter is to get to a mid-range jumper. On the season, he's attempting about 5 mid-range shots per 75 and hitting over 47% of them, and he can get into these shots in a bunch of different ways. If he's driving right, you'll often see him spin back to his left for a fadeaway jumper. And with that high release point, defenders tend to get overzealous on contests, which he pairs with a nice use of up fakes to create some added separation. The only real flaw I'd say Hunter has as an off-the-catch guy is that there are a lot of plays where it feels like he should be looking to attack, but instead decides to shoot the contested three. It's not a huge deal though, because like I said, he's a really good shooter, and when those opportunities present themselves, more times than not, he's aggressively looking to create. Because of that combination of shooting ability and versatility off the catch, a big part of Atlanta's offense was curling him off of screens. Oftentimes that meant a cross screen to get him moving towards the middle of the floor, and if he's left with space to turn the corner, he'll get downhill and utilize the mid-range. These actions are real similar to how the Cavs already like to use someone like Max Strus, and although Hunter isn't quite that caliber of shooter, he's still a big-time scoring threat. And he's capable of making reads on the fly, like here where the middle of the floor is packed, so he instead decides to attack open space on the baseline. Probably Atlanta's most prominent action, though, was a simple handoff. If nobody jumps out to Hunter, he'll take and make that shot. If his defender chases him off the line and the big is sitting back in a drop, he'll take a dribble or two and get to that pull-up midi. His physical tools make him pretty dangerous when turning the corner against a backpedaling big like this. He's got an absurd 7'2" wingspan, which gives him access to unique angles as a finisher. And remember, he's willing to initiate and play through contact with enough strength behind the shoulder to move bigger defenders off their spot and get some separation.
Nice,
Another thing that stands out in these spots is his use of pace. Occasionally, you'll see him pause off a screen and put his defender in jail.
No, yeah, they can do something for sure in the playoffs.
Such a nice in-between
I want to see how they match up
able
against the
to
Knicks.
really pressure the defense as a scorer. Like I
Both
said,
of them are really
the Cavs
rugged.
already run a decent amount of off-screen action for a guy like Strus. They also like to use both.
But honestly, the
Mobley
Cavs
and
bench is
Allen
looking
as
deeper than
dribble
the Knicks.
handoff hubs,
Yeah.
so they'll be able to get Hunter on the
Looking
move
way
and
deeper,
attacking
actually.
space in the same way. Though I will say, probably the biggest similarity between Cleveland and Atlanta's offenses is the way they both utilize their wings as screeners. Once again, you'll see his versatility as an off-the-catch guy. He's looking to pop into open space where he'll either knock down the three or draw an aggressive closeout, quickly attack on a drive, and apply pressure inside
Damn,
the arc.
Victory.
Whether
Victor
it's
gotta get in that
spotting
weight
up,
room, man.
running around
That's
a
beside the
screen,
point,
or
man.
screening himself, it's very clear that Hunter is maximized as an off-ball weapon. And this is a big deal because he'll always be sharing the floor with one of
This
Garland
gameplay is
or
scary,
Mitchell.
bro.
Nah,
Not
dude, I feel
only
like I'm
can
watching
both
a
of
class
those
on
guys
basketball.
maximize his
Nah.
game, he won't take anything away from them. I actually think LeVert
Nice.
was an awkward fit with the Cavs for this exact reason. He's maximized as an on-ball guy, more specifically in the pick and roll, and that meant when he'd enter the game, the ball would run through those star players a little bit less, resulting in stretches where they almost felt
Somebody
iced out of
said
the
for Karis
offense.
LeVert.
Hunter
Karis
won't
LeVert's
be
nice.
taking any of those touches away, and although he isn't nearly the on-ball player LeVert is, it's
I
not
don't see
like
him
he's
doing nothing
completely
more than 4
useless.
dribbles, bro.
Many defenses
that's why
will
he's so
respond to Hunter's
pure, bro.
off-screen
If you really
action
love
by
basketball,
simply
the way he
switching,
plays is
and
tough.
sure, that takes away his space,
It's not extra.
but he's comfortable attacking mismatches.
This is how Ace Bailey gonna come
He's
into
got
the
a
league,
pretty
bro.
nice face-up
Yeah, for
game
sure.
with the ability to rise over the
Except Ace
top
is like
or get
6'10".
into quick
Facts.
1 or 2
And more
dribble
explosive.
pull-ups. And against smaller
and got a better
defenders in
shot.
particular, he likes to turn his back to the basket and bully them out of the post. Keep in mind that if Cleveland has him in starting and closing lineups, he'll often be drawing a team's 4th best defender, which might mean some easy mismatches
Yeah,
for the
guarding
offense
him
to
late game is
attack.
definitely gonna be tough.
In my
Nah, yeah,
opinion,
he gonna put
Hunter's
whoever guard him
biggest
through hell,
weakness
bro.
offensively, though, is that he really isn't a great passer,
playing against the
and I
Cavs
do
would be
view
so
that
OG,
as a
bro.
pretty big downgrade from LeVert. Although it's not like he's completely incapable of making quick and smart decisions. He's usually pretty sharp when it comes to making the right extra pass, and in off-screen or downhill situations, if he draws added attention, he's looking to find the open man. Within a Cavs offense that emphasizes ball movement and passes up good shots for great ones,
Cavs
there
looking
might be a bit
scary,
of
I'm
a
not gonna
learning
lie.
curve, but I don't think he'll have much trouble fitting right in. So, in all totality, it's really as simple as this.
he put them boys in
the
the room,
best
bro.
offense in the NBA just added an efficient 19-point-per-game scorer.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna
and
be
he's
nice.
a pretty seamless fit.
That's an extra
He makes
20
the team
piece a
bigger
game?
and more athletic while keeping the spacing. He's capable of utilizing all 3 levels and generates free throws without taking the ball out of anyone's hands. And whether the Cavs decide to start him or bring him off the bench, I do think he makes them an even tougher cover come playoff time. As for the defensive side of the ball, I'm not quite as confident. Hunter came into the league as a highly touted defensive prospect, and once you have that reputation, it's sort of always there, so I feel like a lot of people just assume that he's a huge upgrade to the perimeter defense.
That's what I did, too.
And in some ways, he can be. Going back to what I said about size and athleticism, these things matter a lot, especially when it comes to unlocking more lineup versatility. The Cavs would put out units that relied on Niang to play the 4, and I do think Hunter helps a lot there. He isn't much of a defensive playmaker or rim protector at all, but he's an active helper, and that 7'2" wingspan does make a difference when it comes to just simply clogging up driving or passing lanes. So as a 3 or 4, I feel pretty good about him. He's lengthy, strong, and has pretty good technique in isolation. He's also relatively switchable, which pairs nicely with how the Cavs like to use Mobley and Allen. However, he isn't quick enough to stick with a lot of guards and can struggle getting around screens at the point of attack, which does create some concerns when it comes to starting and closing lineups. Before getting hurt, Dean Wade was the starting 3. And Wade's one of the more versatile defensive forwards in the league with some legitimate 1 through 5 capability. If they plan to replace him with Hunter, now Garland and Mitchell are your 2 go-to defenders for opposing guards, which could turn out to be a pretty big weakness in certain matchups. I think some of that is mitigated by the fact that Mobley and Allen are both top-tier rim protectors, but against offenses like New York or Boston that run a lot of 5-out, they could really be tested. So even though Hunter's a clear upgrade defensively from Niang, and arguably LeVert as well, the defensive impact at the team level will likely be determined by how the Cavs handle his rotation. I think they get slightly worse in starting and closing scenarios if he's on the floor over Wade, but I think they get a lot better during the in-between minutes due to the lineup versatility he brings to the table. I'm especially looking forward to the minutes that he and Wade share the floor together with either one of Mobley or Allen in the middle. Only time will tell how this move affects the team on both ends, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little adjustment period in the regular season. In my opinion, though, this was very obviously a move for the playoffs. The league's best offense just got tougher to stop, and with each passing day, they look more and more like the team to be in the East. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like,
great video, man.
And turn my post notifications
Shout out DeAndre Hunter. Shout out.
Hey! Great video, man.
Victor, get up! Hey, man. Shout out Huvenu, man. Shout out DeAndre Hunter once again.
Let's
Leave
see
a
how he
like,
fits
comment,
in.
and smash that subscribe button down below, man. We'll catch you on the next video.
Don't forget to
Shout out God.
shout out God.
Deuces.